This podcast is brought to you by Amusement Warehouse Magazine, the industry's largest trade publication. We cover amusement parks, carnivals, fairs, festivals, history, safety columns. We really got it all when it comes to the amusement business. Only remaining print publication in the amusement industry on a regular basis. So if you're interested in what the amusement industry has to offer, subscribe today. You can subscribe by logging on to amusementwarehouse.com, carnivalwarehouse.com, or amusementparkwarehouse.com. For Zamperla, a name that everybody in the amusement industry knows, and even the people out of the industry may not know the name, but they certainly know the products, right, Michael?
Yes, thank you, Ron. You'd be hard pressed to find a carnival or an amusement park around the world that does not have at least one Zamperla attraction.
That's probably very, very true. It's being in the industry now, you go and see your friends that aren't in the industry, and you'll see a movie or you'll see something else, and be like, that ride is a Zamperla, or that ride is this one, and know the people around it. It's an interesting thing that so many people just enjoy it. They ride it and they do their thing, but sort of knowing the people behind it and knowing some of the mechanics behind it is really sort of a fun, little secret world that and as I'm sure it happens to you too. Your friends or whatever don't really know much about the industry, but you certainly know it inside and out. So it's always fun to have that knowledge, even if they may not share it as much as you do with the things.
For sure, yeah. When the movie If came out, I think that weekend I must have had 15, 20 text messages as the camera pans in on the Zamperla rides, Midi Family Swinger at Coney Island in Luna Park.
Yeah, it's neat. Or I'll see a carnival in a movie or on a commercial, and I'll slow it down to see if I can see whose show it was with the logo somewhere or something like that, or maybe what park something was filmed at. It's you see it in so many different little places that it's a neat little game to play when you're on the inside.
Yeah, there's a Toyota commercial running right now, and we talked before, but I'm up in New England at Canopy Lake for the NIAPA summer meeting, and a group of us had dinner together last night, and there was on the TV a Toyota commercial, and we were trying to figure out which roller coaster it was and where the park was that they had filmed, but we came up empty as a team.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
with experts.
Team of experts, we came up empty.
Maybe it's all CGI. It might have been made up.
Yeah, AI's everywhere, right?
That's true. So, we're talking about just now with your friends or whatever. How did you get in the business? How did you first get involved with Zamperla?
So years ago, I was looking for pharmaceutical sales jobs, and North Jersey, where I'm originally from, is
me too.
Yep. Yeah, we could have been neighbors, but we didn't quite cross paths. But I know you get back up to the neighborhood once in a while. And so all of a sudden I saw this listing for Zamperla, and they needed a national sales manager. I was like, wait, hold on. Why do I know that name? And growing up in Boonton, New Jersey for the majority of my childhood, I was the little kid going past the Zamperla Incorporated North American headquarters.
Oh, okay.
Smudging up my mother's rear window every time to see what rides were in the back. You
can see it there at the
coming right down the road. You can see.
Oh, wow.
And back then in the late 80s and early 90s, it was where all of the portable amusement rides, right? Back in that time, the carnival industry was about 75 to 80% of the business for Zamperla. So the trailer mounted rides would get final assembly at our North American headquarters, get stamped with a VIN number on the trailer, and get US axles put on underneath it. And then they would go off to their various destinations and fairs. So that was my early introduction to Zamperla. And then I believe it was a Monday morning, I responded, sent in my resume, and met with Ramon Rosario that same afternoon. And he's like,
That
well,
must
why
have
do
been a
you?
meeting.
Yeah, we all know Ramon. He's a lovable character.
He is.
Um, and then, me as a young kid, almost 13 years ago, sitting across from him was intimidating, right? And, you know, but he was like, I think I like you. I think I can work with you.
I think I like you.
Yeah. And,
He's never said that to me.
oh, Ronnie loves you. Come on. You know that. And so he's like, all right, cool. Like, can you come back later this week to meet with Valerio Ferrari? And
Wow.
sure. By that Friday, I had signed an offer letter and started writing a new history for myself and helping the company.
That's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
Zamperla's had some, you know, I guess in our industry, almost legendary salespeople, like you said, like Lenny and Carlo and Ramon.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
some
Valerio.
heady company to work with and some big shoes to be in. But you got a great product behind you too to sell. So
Well,
that's great.
yeah, it's not only the product, Ron, it's the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
With our engineers here stateside, whether they're in the office handling technical support, we're out in the field on installations, and then our parts division that we house in New Jersey, right? They are aces and communicate, work well with our international team. Back in Italy, where we're over 400 employees, kind of the backbone of the company between engineering and after sales support. But going back to some of those legendary names, I mean, it's a company culture that we have that you typically don't leave, right? Ramon's probably coming up on 28 years with
Jeez.
the company. Valerio been with the organization for about 30 years.
28. Ramon told me he's only 31. So is he lying?
He started in diapers. Um, but that's the thing, right? And coming up on 13 years, I think I've been with the company longer than Lenny was, than Carlo was.
Wow.
So I hold those gentlemen in great regard. I'll see Lenny this afternoon over at Canopy Lake and give him a big bear hug like we always do. So it's a
You got some
proud to be part of
characters.
it. Yeah.
Definitely got some characters. So when you started, you were like, all right, I'm going to be selling rides to amusement parks and carnivals and
Yeah.
FECs and things like that. Was you
I
weren't
had
scared,
no
huh?
idea.
You just
I
knew you
had
could
no
do
idea what I was in for. But I knew it would be fun. And I spent my first couple weeks working with Phil Castellano, turning wrenches and getting to know the equipment.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then that year we had a trailer mounted air race going to IAPA that I got to put be hands on with, learn about the movements that we use, and it was quite an education and helped me understand what product was out there and kind of all the thought and engineering that went into it.
That's cool. That I was reading too about Zamperla a little bit just to see if I caught any things I didn't know, which is plenty, of course. But they really seem to have their organization together with all the different divisions and how they work together. And you immediately went to it, so I'm sure it's part of the culture there. But you think about some of the ride companies are built as sort of a cult of person. There's one guy basically, that is the inventor and come up with things, and of course there's a team to build it and everything else. But Zamperla really has an organization, that's followed on from the founders.
Right, Ron, and it kind of speaks to the evolution of the company, right? Remaining current, staying ahead of the curve. You think about Antonio Zamperla Sr. and Alberto's father and how he founded the company,
Mm-hmm.
right? He started building rides for himself as a traveling showman.
Is that how he started too? I didn't realize that. Okay. So many start that way.
It started as a garage grassroots kind of builder. All of a sudden his friends and competitors all started saying, "Hey, can you build one of those for me?" And that business took off. And then his son Alberto, he was the commercial mind. he was the one that said, I can take this globally,
Mm-hmm.
right? And branch out. And he established, first brought the company to North America via Montreal and then down to New Jersey, before finding a piece of land right at the 287 and 80 junction, which allowed for easy distribution and transport of all the trailer mounted rides, going north, south, east, and west, and utilizing the port in New York. So having that evolution, getting into the Euro Disney contract that transformed the way we operated as a manufacturer and a theming company, to where we are today. And Antonio, our current CEO's, Alberto's son, and his vision going forward, and spending the last decade investing in our coaster division, building to the most current norms across the world. We're constantly evolving, and I'm excited to be here and be a part of what's next for us.
Yeah, it's really neat. I mean, because building an organization is not an easy thing to do. I mean, a lot of people are great entrepreneurs, great builders, great inventors, but building an actual company,
Mm-hmm.
organization that has all those divisions and works together and has a culture like you're speaking about, that's next level. That's a whole different ball game, from just being a great inventor of some kind, and having one product, or
For
several
sure.
products, or being a smart guy. So that's that's really cool. And like you said, the evolution is really interesting. So you, excuse me, you touched on before. So you said like I didn't even realize it was that high, but it was like 80% of the rides in Jersey were going mobile amusement industry when you first got there.
Oh no, when I was when I was younger, in the late '80s, early
Oh,
'90s,
okay.
right? So the '70s, the '80s, the early '90s, um, the mobile industry was right. It was booming. It was massive.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact numbers on how many carnivals there were at the time, or traveling showmen, but you know that was the bulk of the business for the company, and kind of helped set up the foundation for where we are today.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
right?
And you're still selling a lot of portable rides to a certain extent, right? I mean, I know you got a lot
No,
of kiddie rides that are out there already, so that
yeah, there's a
people
lot
pass
that
them.
are out there, but with the way the new standards are,
Mm-hmm.
and you've kind of seen this, it's been tough for any manufacturer to innovate in the space, because some of I guess the new standards call for, if you look at let's say a Samba balloon, for example, or a mini jet. The old standards, we're building with tubular steel. The new standards, based for the steel, we're looking at I-beam construction, and they're just too heavy to pull down the road.
Mm.
You're going to have blowouts and things of that nature. We can still supply mini jets and go bounces or jump arounds, but it would, somebody would just have to would create the racking and put it on a flatbed, rather than pull it with wheels underneath it.
So the park side of the business, though, did you already have decent relationships there? But as a company, I'm talking about
Yeah.
Zamperla, or did you have to forge those relationships because you were so heavy on sort of the other side of the business?
You know, I'm I'm fortunate, right? I had guys, like I said earlier, like Alberto, Valerio, Ramon,
Mhm.
that paved the path.
Gotcha.
Um, and they did all the really hard work. And then they brought me along and said, "Hey, here's our new guy. Say hello." Right. So their hard work made my job much easier. Right.
And
It's
you
not
said, "Make
easy.
me look good. I need you to get one of these
Exactly.
kitty rats over here." That's great. So when you first started, what were your biggest sellers? Like, what were you
Oh,
really pushing at the
the
time?
happy swing
Happy Swing,
was fantastic. It's still a fantastic ride,
cute ride.
for us, right? We'll do a bunch of those annually around the world. It's simple, it's effective, it's a movement that isn't out on the market anywhere else. Adult and child capacity for that shared experience. Jump arounds were, flying off the floor. lolly swings, when I started.
Yeah, that's a big ride.
Right. And those are still prevalent. And in our
Mhm.
portfolio, we've got a 60 plus ride portfolio. So it's, those are the rides that really helped establish a lot of positive relationships for us as an organization.
Samba balloon.
Yeah, I mean,
The
and they touch every corner of the market, right? The indoor
yeah.
FEC, they were at the time portable, the small parks, the independent parks, and then you look at uh, like the Camp Snoopies or Planet Snoopies. Those are rides that you'll find in there as well, right? So even at the major chains.
So the FECs have become a pretty big thing too. There's a lot of them are adding rides, and you guys are just fit perfectly for them with the
Yeah,
sizes.
we just had two wonderful installations go in up at Neb's Fun World in Oshawa, Ontario. Our Chronos and a Speedway 6. So great rides, family rides. If I ever take my kids anywhere, Ron, they're soon to be 3 and 5. We have to ride a Speedway. They recognize it. They love it.
Love it.
It's a take on the kiddie whip, right? It's just an absolute home run. So tons of fun.
Yeah, definitely take on the kiddie rib. And I think Zamperla would always, at least when I first, before I knew anything about rides or whatever, what struck me about the Zamperla kiddie rides is that it was their look. I'm sure you're going to talk about the engineering, which is all important, and the safety and all those things are important. But as just a casual observer, when you go and you see a Zamperla ride and how beautiful it looks, the painting and all the things that go into it do they spend a lot of time saying that this color is going to work better for us than that, or is that a
Our
consideration?
art department, I think, is the best in the business, hands down. They are a great team. There are about 6 of them, led by Enrico Patecchi, and they just crank out great work time after time after time. And over the years, you learn lessons, right? It's a big part of life. And you learn that certain colors in certain environments, they fade faster, or they don't hold up as well in, harsh winter climates. So we take that institutional knowledge and share that with our client base and let them know, hey, we know you love this color, but we've seen in similar environments to yours that you're going to be repainting in a few years. And kind of C3M has always been the standard for amusement ride paint. And we use Marine Cycle C5M on a lot of projects, which increases the the durability of the fiberglass and the paint. So it's something that we think about with every attraction.
Yeah, you could tell. I mean, you could tell. Like I said, even early on, you could say, "Wow, that's a good looking." And you think mostly of the kiddie rides is the colors and things like that, but that's so important. I'm fascinated myself with you talk about the FECs and some of the carnivals and some of the parks and the independent parks, and then sort of corporate parks. Like, how different is that sales cycle selling to a big corporate park as opposed to you can go to some of these independents and you meet the owner and you say, hey, how you doing? You need one of these, and he might say, okay, that day. That's at least how I imagine it. But yeah, tell me about what
If it was that day, that would be fantastic, Ron.
I'm exaggerating, but losing a little hyperbole. But
yeah, there are a lot of there are some folks out there that do shoot from the hip, and we appreciate that. But more and more, what we've seen is long-term planning from everyone.
okay.
At every stage. Kind of the way the economy has shifted over the last 5 years, people are thinking about 5-year plans more so than ever, 5, 10, 15, and what their facility is going to look like, looking at aging equipment and ride replacement strategy rather than understand, oh, this ride's, failed NDT and we can't run it anymore, right? They're looking out to the future. So our conversations are deeper than when I first started, and longer, more informative. And because it's an additional layer of sophistication that's happening during the due diligence process. Going to see existing installations of a ride that somebody may be considering, and taking noise reports, right? Because they may have local noise ordinances.
Okay.
So hiring sound engineers to come out and do that stuff. The due diligence process has definitely changed in the last decade.
Yeah, that's very interesting to know. But is there, with the big corporate parks, is there another level of difficulty of selling to those guys, or is it not as bad as I'm imagining?
No, I wouldn't call it a difficulty either. I think you know what we do. We're relationship based,
Mm-hmm.
and we're constantly engaged. You know, everybody that we deal with pretty much already has a Zamperla ride, unless it's a greenfield project, and so they know our organization. Whether it's in the parts division with the maintenance managers, whether it's operations managers in touch with our technical service team. Um, there's a constant flow of communication at every level. So when it comes time for procurement at a corporate level park, the conversations are pretty straightforward when it comes to, hey, we're looking for something with this type of demographic appeal,
Mm-hmm.
this kind of capacity, and to fit this type of theme. So it's just a really well-rounded conversation, and something that, because I think everybody understands that what we do as a manufacturer is we are the means to create a great guest experience through an attraction.
Sure.
And whether that's an onboard experience or an offboard visual for mom or dad that may not be riding, or kind of get that stop and stare moment on certain attractions like the nebulas. You know, I think our partners at the corporate level really can appreciate what we're doing. And
So they're
so,
coming at you more from a like a goal oriented thing, and then you move into what it is, rather
yeah.
than saying I want this particular ride. They're more
Mhm.
like, we want to achieve these goals, and then you can come to them with the project, I guess.
Right. And we spend a lot of time in the parks as a team in order to understand what their specific needs are. If there's a hole, or if there's an aging ride that is becoming difficult to maintain or get parts for it, if it's past its serviceable life. So we understand what's happening when we walk on property, because we've already been there numerous times throughout the year,
Gotcha.
and we're on the phones having virtual meetings with park presidents and operations and maintenance managers to really understand what we can do and what we can offer.
That's great. You touched before on sort of the evolution of Zamperla, and now you're into coasters pretty heavy with different things. What were you? When did that start? Did that start when you were already there? And then how does that? What was the sort of the decision making process behind that? Like, what are the benefits for Zamperla to move in
So,
that direction?
so I'm glad you asked this, because for
Me too.
decades, for decades, Zamperla built reliable roller coasters,
Mm-hmm.
wagon coasters. There are still some from the early 80s that are in operational state, that are as old as I am at 40 years old, right? Uh, and then, but what we looked at when we looked at it, there's twister coasters, and we were building for a portable market in that double wide kind of European stall, right? Where the traveling show would come into town for a month and then move to another one. So we kind of lived in a box, engineering wise. And then about a decade ago, we shifted that mentality when we opened up the Thunderbolt at Luna Park in Coney Island, and understood that we needed to think differently as a coaster manufacturer. And from a design perspective, from a manufacturing perspective, so we invested a lot in team and technology, and bringing on talented engineers. Elisa, our mathematician, is a wizard with her calculations. So, and then the final piece of that puzzle for us was bringing on Adam Sandy as our global roller coaster sales and marketing director, specifically focused where he does team selling with me and the rest of our global sales team, specifically towards our roller coaster division. So it started with engineering, design. Now we're into more modern fabrication techniques. Our team has worked with the local university to develop our own proprietary design software. And in fact, we just opened a new lightning lift coaster in China with our new BBZ track, which is designed to minimize any kind of warping in the rails during the weld process. And the overlay of the theoretical engineering and the actual is spot on. So we're making some of our smoothest track. We're making the smoothest track we ever have. We're mill machining chassis, bogies, nitrocarburizing on some smaller coasters to help the hardness and reduce NDT costs. So what we're doing right now in the coaster division is something pretty special, and to be a part of it and to witness the growth and kind of the thought behind the scenes before we really rolled it out to the public has been pretty cool to witness and be a part of.
I'd say you've gotten quite a few projects, including the, was it last year or year before? And IAPA, when you unveiled the Cedar Point project you were working on, and that got a lot of news and certainly a big boost to you guys as far as a project goes. Can you talk a little bit about that?
The trains were really well received. They're super comfortable, but we've also got the Lightning out in Playland at Vancouver that we just opened. I got a chance to experience that. And when I ride a ride, Ron, sometimes I don't enjoy it because I'm too analytical about it.
You're thinking too much when you're instead of enjoying it.
Okay, what's this? What am I feeling? How is this performing? How's the restraint feel? Is there a little jostle side to side? Do I feel anything here? But on that Lightning launch up at PNE, it was halfway through that launch, the analytical part of my brain turned off, and I absolutely enjoyed it start to finish. Like it was just, it was a really good watershed moment for us.
That's great. Yeah. It seems to me, and again, I'm just riffing on it as an observer, but some of the metal coasters, the experience is pretty smooth, nowadays. It's not as jostly and all that stuff, but once in a while I'll get on a wood coaster where you feel like you're absolutely going to die at any second, like go off the rails. And that, there's something to that feeling though too, is where you're the perception of being a scary ride or something like that is always interesting, because some of them are like, and I'm not talking about a Zamperla coaster, but I've been on coasters where they're almost too smooth. It's like you're doing something pretty spectacular in retrospect, but it didn't feel like it. It felt pretty smooth. It was like, oh,
right, yeah. Every once in a while, you want to make sure you're alive, right? You want to have that feeling. Right. I remember being out at Parc Astérix years ago and riding Tourneur de Zeus before they did the retrack on it. I haven't been back to ride it, but I heard from other people I know that it's too smooth. But right, they missed that bone shaking
right
experience.
It's gotta be a little bit of that.
Yeah,
it's gotta be a little bit of that.
And like I don't buy the souvenir, right? But that one I bought the keychain because I had the look of fear in my eyes. Like
wow.
So I can't wait to get back and ride it next time I'm in Paris. But I know
That's
what you're
great.
saying, and the kind of the market and has been, when the coaster division really, it's about smooth, fast, zippy transitions, right, where you're not banging your head against an overblown shoulder restraint. Everything's kind of moved to the over the shoulder lap bar. for containment on the Class 5. So, there's a lot of, I guess you would call it consumer demand from our perspective on having those airtime pops, S curves, kind of different types of superlatives than those older legacy coasters that are out there that'll get you wanting a bottle of water and a little sit on a bench afterwards.
Yeah, and it's interesting just from a business standpoint theoretically, because you were in a place where you were building rides that are sort of time tested. The kiddie rides and all those things. Now, when you're talking to these coasters, you're pushing the envelope and everything, which presents a whole different set of challenges, and also the things on the safety side. You got to make sure everything's safe, and you might be entering some places that haven't been entered before. So that's an interesting thing to me. That's a whole different ballgame. That was really a risk with a great reward, of course, to take for a company that's been there for a long time.
Yeah, and we're fortunate where we're located in northern Italy, right along the A4 corridor that runs from Venice to Milan. It is a wildly industrious stretch of earth where we've got partnerships with aircraft aluminum suppliers, aerospace grade aluminum suppliers, F1 companies. So, a lot of we're introducing carbon fiber as part of our product line. So there's a lot of innovation happening in that space, and we're just happy to be a part of it and utilizing the resources close to us that we can partner up with.
Yeah, it's neat because and the coaster business, you always have to come up with new ideas, right? You always be pushing the envelope to a certain extent as far as why is this experience different than that experience? Whereas before you said you were building the, sort of the staid old line coasters, tried and true, which are great, but now the game is, what's a little bit taller or has a little different motion or experience, and that takes creativity, and that takes a lot of challenge for sure.
Yeah, and a wise man once told me, I believe it was Valerio Ferrari, that safety is the baseline for all operations.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't do it safely, then you can't do it at all.
Right.
So, that is something that we live by, and why we have such a deep stress analysis department as a subdivision of our engineering division. So, there's so many different offices and talented teams that all come together to make these things possible. And, even innovating in the flat ride space, just some of the stuff that our teams are coming up with is impressive. Everybody's used to Zamperla debuting a new ride on the show floor at IAAPA every year. That's one of probably 25 blue sky ideas that we as a team get presented from our engineering department over the course of a couple of years. And we, kind of have to come together. We have these beautiful meetings where we talk about what does the market need, right? What's out there, but what are we doing in this blue sky environment that's going to be the next big thing? So it's a lot of fun. And you look at the Nebulas. It's a ride that we debuted in 2019, just prior to the pandemic. And after that, here we are in 2024, and we've got over 40 of them worldwide.
Wow.
On an investment of that scale, those are numbers that typically take 5 to 10 years, not 0 to 5. So, it's minds like Tim Jacoby, Fausto Ravignani, and Vittorio Babini, Mattia Dalla Mota, just coming up with these concepts and then diving into, okay, now how do we make it work?
That's fascinating. That's really interesting the way things work and come to fruition. I was thinking it was actually not that different than your former medical sales things, because how much research and how many tries they do with something to actually come to market. It sounds like it's almost the same thing where, one breaks through after you tried 25 different ideas. The one that's going to really make it work and sell and come to market. It's always fascinating how businesses, even our amusement business, which is fun and all those things, see on the outside, is still a business in the end, and the way it We produce things or do things is no different than any other business in a lot of ways, if you look for similarities anyway.
Right.
So speaking of businesses, Zamperla, and I didn't realize the origins, but you went from a mobile business, but now you're in the park business in a fairly big way, actually. So, can you talk a little bit about that transition and the challenges you faced with Coney Island and the former Woolman rink and European park or two? I think you got two.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at it in, the transition from a supplier in the majority carnival or mobile business to the parks, we had, it was a smaller percentage of the business, but what really thrust us forward was that Euro Disney contract in the early 90s, supplying 9 rides. And it helped us as an organization understand how we needed to work in order to be a better builder. Right? We started as a garage builder, one man turning wrenches and welding and creating this little, mini Avio, the precursor to the mini jet. And all of a sudden now we have a global distribution internally, without using ride brokers everywhere. And then now it's okay. Well, there's a lot of parks out here that, like our product. We're doing world-class theming. And so we've got a situation on our hands now where, the carnival market was shrinking rapidly. It's, I think when I started, there were, and help me with the numbers if you know them, but I think there were over 400 or 800 registered carnivals, and now we're in the 400s.
I find some of those numbers to be sort of,
and they're skewed, right? They're skewed.
Yeah, I don't know what you consider a car. Like if a guy's, a bouncy house, is he a carnival or where does that go?
Yeah,
I think some of those numbers were kind of fantastical sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And then the changes in standards that
absolutely
globally that we have to build to, right? Like I mentioned earlier, but we still support that business through our parts and technical service teams, and we haven't abandoned it in any way. We still have conversations. We've got some blue sky stuff that might see the light of day, but having now we're kind of almost a bespoke manufacturer, right? There's 40 nebulas out, or 42, I think. No two are exactly alike. Right. There's always some different touch, whether it's the paint process, whether it's the electrical requirements because it's going to a different destination.
Lighting.
Yeah, the lighting configuration, our light engineers. So, we're almost the bespoke manufacturer now.
It's true. People want different things a lot
from a garage builder.
Yeah, it's very true. I was years ago at the Carnival trade show. I was talking to Selner when they were still around about the Tilt-A-Whirl because people would complain, oh, they don't bring as many rides to say the Gibtown trade show, and I guess IAAPA is the same way to a certain extent. And it'd say why, and she said, I used to build one red Tilt-A-Whirl, and that was all we had, and people would come and I'd build it on spec and they'd buy it. But now it's, well, I want yellow bonnets and I want this theming and I want this light package. You can't build it on spec anymore because people want something unique to them, as you're sort of talking about. And it's important that they have their look and feel and you put their stamp on it. I think it's so true nowadays because the diversification is so huge with different things you can have.
Yep.
On a ride. But I was talking more about like the park operations, like operating a park, like what brought you guys into that and how has that changed the company a little bit? I know it's probably made you more sensitive to things you're building, right?
For sure. Luna Park and Coney Island, that happened right about a year or two before I started here. And we had already had the Woolman Rink, Victorian Gardens Park, which was a mobile operation. We would move in right before Memorial Day and then move out after Labor Day. But what it's done is it actually gave us field data to send back to our engineers and understand how our machines operated in the field. And so that really has made us a better designer, a better builder, and a better support system for the industry at large. And then we have our indoor center in Bologna, Luna Farm, which takes this imaginary character. I believe his name is Giovanni, and he has these farm animals that are our mascots. And it's all really high quality theming. Everything has an accessibility transfer bench or the ability to roll a wheelchair on. So it was our first attempt at an accessibility park. But we're an anchor attraction at FECO World Italy in Bologna. And it's just such an adorable little place, but also allowed us to kind of shift and say, okay, now how do we monitor these rides in real time? And so we've on those and what we're doing now, we've got a system called Connected Rides where we can monitor hydraulic temperatures and motor temperatures to understand and get away from reactive maintenance and parts ordering and go to a predictive maintenance schedule.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So there's, and that's something that we're championing now. And the early returns on it are really great because what's downtime? Lost revenue. So we want to keep uptime up at our parks and also at our partner parks.
Wow. So is that something you're really working on? You're gonna be rolling out as a feature of your rides, or is that how's that gonna?
Yeah, on some it's already out to market on some stuff, and we've got the ability. We've got some partners that we do we have monitoring for, and with our connected ride system, and on certain attractions, basically we have with cybersecurity and everything like that. We've got black boxes, kind of like on the airplanes. So even through power failure, things like that, we can go back and analyze data and understand what happened, right? Maybe there was a power outage or a failure on one component, but what led to it, right? Were there signs? So we can analyze that and understand and maybe rework the next one or come back with a solution.
That probably saves too on some maintenance too, because you can instead, like if something fails as a result of something happening,
right? Maybe there's a brake that's just a little too tight, right? And so now all of a sudden the motor is working overtime, or an air compressor is working overtime, and it's failing, but it shouldn't, right? So that brake was hot. Why was that brake hot, right? Or hey, that brake's hot. Let's go check it and see what's going on before it fails. And
so instead of going through 8,000 different brakes, you figure out the underlying problem before
you find the root cause much earlier, right?
Right.
You're able to diagnose and understand and get these rides back up and running, because machines are machines, right? You got to get your oil changed on your car. You got to do the same thing with an amusement ride.
That's great. That's fascinating. That'll be a huge help to people operating the rides and doing things, because there is so much, if something does fail, the first solution is to buy the new part on what failed. But if there's an underlying cause that you're not able to diagnose, what are you doing? Besides, I mean, it's good for your parts business, I guess. You sell a bunch of stuff because it keeps failing, but it's not good.
Our goal is to reduce downtime, reduce off-season NDT costs, reduce the total cost of ownership, right? That's something that we've been talking about for a few years, is that total cost of ownership. Okay, what's my initial CapEx? How much does it cost me to run this ride every year? And how much do I have to put into it every off season when I'm not making money, right? Especially for the seasonal parks or the seasonal businesses. So that's been a big focus of ours, in understanding how do we build better, right? And that's where Luna Park, Victorian Gardens, Luna Farm all come in, because those are all in-house employees, right? They're at our sister
Right.
company, Central Amusement International, but we've got that direct line of communication constantly flowing.
Yeah, it's a great sort of laboratory to learn, their business and what the challenges parks face.
Yep.
Sometimes before they probably see them, or at least you're able to diagnose the problem, or maybe even improve some things so you can be a better partner to them with the business. It's interesting because you said you started out as a carnival and then did the garage building, but now you've kind of done the same thing on the park side. You operated parks and you're into the parks, so that sort of incubator of
Yeah.
operating really does help teach a lot of lessons.
And it's been a great place for us to prove out some of those blue sky ideas, right? The first ever air race was installed at Luna Park in Coney Island. The first ever nebulas, right? We put it through a season of paces before we released the ride out to the public and really started marketing it. And then when we developed the super air race, which is our tower model, where the center hub rises up 25 feet. So now you're doing your barrel rolls at 50 feet in the air. We put that in, and we, relocated the first ever air race to a different park. Same thing with the Endeavor was, unit 1 went to us first, and we put it through its paces and made sure that we had a good experience and a reliable machine before pushing it out to market.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and it's important also because you get I know it's not overt probably or something like that, but you do get a credibility that might not otherwise be there. Like, whether it's a carnival or park, you might be the sales guy and you come up and you say, I got this idea. But if you're the sales guy and you got this idea and you've operated it yourself at a park and at a carnival already, that gives you an extra level of
it goes a long way. When you think about, because now we're able to talk the same language, right?
Right.
I'm not showing up with a brochure and going, hey,
right.
Look at my
this is going to work great.
Hold on, let me go to my trunk and get my 8-pound work Excel. It's a different conversation, and frankly, a more fun one.
Yeah, I mean, it does mean a lot. It means a whole lot to be able to do that.
And we host, right? We've got over 40 rides and attractions at our showroom.
Wow. Yeah, because I think no matter what, there's some corner of somebody's brain when they give you and something's new or it's untested or whatever you want to call it, or you maybe haven't operated a park. They say, yeah, but he doesn't really understand. He hasn't walked in my shoes, or there's something of that. But when you have walked in their shoes and you kind of led the way, it's got to be a super reassuring thing to the parks or the carnival to have already tested it and already have it run its paces and worked out the initial kinks that are inevitable with new things that you didn't necessarily plan for.
And to your point, Ron, we've got at our facilities in northern Italy what we like to call Foundation Park, where we can do factory acceptance testing on a fully installed attraction. And we've got different templates and foundation anchor points already built into our ground. A really good case study for that was when we did our factory coaster in China, where we developed in-house, prototyped, and tested a 10-meter drop track with a 20-passenger vehicle on it, where the bottom falls out and you're guided down by magnetic brakes before reversing back out of the station or out of the drop element. So being able to do something like that, there aren't many other manufacturers in the world that have that ability. I was on a due diligence trip with a client back in May to our facility in Italy, and a few of the rides they were looking at, we actually had on the production floor for other clients, a demolition derby too, turntable, right? They got to see the inner workings of that being put through its paces and being assembled before the vehicles got on. We had a sky tower, 27-meter tall, full rotation, that they were looking at that just happened to be going through its factory acceptance testing, right? So we put these machines together and we put them through, depending on the ride, a certain number of cycles with all the monitoring, and we can then disassemble, put Humpty Dumpty in a box, 40-foot open top container or a couple of them, ship them across the Atlantic Ocean to the United States or North America or Central, South America, wherever they may be going. And when our technical support is there guiding that local installer on how to put this thing back together, we already know that this thing is run well and just need to make some maybe fine-tune adjustments on site rather than spending weeks and months going through that process on someone's property.
But even the demographics I'm thinking about too, like, you design a ride and you think, this class of people are going to like it and that class of people are going to buy it. But until you actually put it into operation, you don't know for sure. So, if something was 10 feet taller or 10 feet shorter, it might be open to a wider market, by testing, like coasters, once you put a loop on it, you get different type of rider than you would if there's, a straight coaster or something like that. So if you have, say, like you mentioned, a drop tower, and I have no idea, but just as an example, if it's so many meters tall, your audience might be this big, but as it gets a little taller, maybe the audience shrinks a little bit because, there's less adventure seekers, or maybe you lose moms at a certain point, or people over a certain age. So that kind of data is probably really strong to have by field testing it, in the park, because you could tell with confidence to the end user that, hey, this is what we found. Is that surprisingly we're getting all these ages, or we found that it appealed to a broader audience than we thought it might have, or vice versa.
Ron, we designed to three height restrictions to capture any demographic that walks through a park. We start at the 36-inch minimum height, or 90 centimeters, and then we go up to the 105 centimeter or 42 inches, and then we go to the 48-inch on our thrill rides. So my son is 5 years old and just about 47 inches tall, but he is a cautious young man. He's fun, but he will, kids right at that height restriction, they will self-select out, right? If they think something is too big for them, or the movement looks a little too intense. So in that, right, to your point, capturing the right demographic for an attraction is something that our engineers take very seriously. It's part of the standards that we have to build to, right? You can only, at certain heights, you can only exact certain forces on the human body. So we live within those. We get right to the edge. But really what we want to do is we want to build thrill rides for every demographic, right? You or I ride a happy swing. That moment of inertia when we change directions, that on a happy swing, that's not going to give us the weightlessness or the butterflies in our stomach. But at 36 to 42 inches tall, that's like riding a giant pendulum for them, right? So they get that moment of inertia. And my son, he said it to me on his first super happy swing ride. He goes, "Daddy, I feel like I had little fluttery bugs in my belly." And I'm like, that's the goal, right? And he's giggling and he's laughing, but that's a thrill ride for him.
And yet he's not terrified by it either.
Yeah, he's not terrified yet.
That's great. I mean, because I've seen a lot of rides over the years, not Zamperla rides per se, but people invent a new ride. They think it's going to appeal to this or that or the other thing, but until it's market tested, it's a little bit different ball game. So having that data that you guys have by putting it out there, the nebulas, I'm sure you might have learned a lesson or two or different things about it that you didn't think when you were just doing it theoretically speaking, because just things happen, when you're put in reality.
Something in my brain. So the super happy swing came because that corner of Luna Park, we were getting a logjam of people and we didn't understand why. So our team went out and witnessed, why is this so busy? Oh, the line for the happy swing 12 capacity was long.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have a little bit of space here. Okay, let's supersize it, right? To take a thing from
Movies,
McDonald's.
yeah.
It was okay. Let's do 16 capacity, make it a little bigger swing, and that helped alleviate the congestion in that area by putting 4 more people through per cycle. We increased our theoretical hourly or real hourly capacity. Um, didn't change the movement system, just sized it up to handle the additional weight, and created another home attraction for us as a vendor, but also for the parks.
That's neat. So that's a great lesson that learned from reality, from
Being
actually
an
operating
operator,
the park
yeah.
and doing the thing. So it's
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that's gonna, not just that one, but I'm sure there's other examples where that's happened. That's a really a great service to provide to your end users with doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So operating the park is really brings you next level. It gives you, like you
Yeah,
said, it gives you information that nobody else can really provide unless they're actually doing it.
exactly.
So do you get out to the factory much? Do you get to Italy to the headquarters much? Or
I do. It's a perk of the job. It's a
got to go
wonderful
to headquarters
schedule.
again?
Yeah, I get to go out a couple times a year. I think this year I'll be out there 3 or 4 times. Whether that's when we all come together, right? Our global sales team comes together, and we share best practices that we've found. Kind of share what's happening in our individual markets, or whether it's a due diligence trip with a client or partner to our facility. You know, it's the culture there is what we try to bring out and spread through our gospel, so to speak, right? Just the diligence that everybody has, and the food's nice too. Come on. Eat well when you get there.
Do they take August off like traditionally has been done in Europe and Italy?
No,
No,
so
they're working.
we, as an organization, right, Europe as a whole almost shuts down in August.
Right.
But we understand that's our busy season. So yeah, people still take vacations, right? Can't chain anybody to a desk anymore. But
But it's not the old style shutdown like it was. August
no,
was
no, no. The business keeps moving. But sometimes, yeah, our suppliers, yeah, if they're a smaller shop, and sometimes they are shut down. But
mm. I
that's
was
why
wondering if
we,
they said, well, the Americans work in August and we're going to take it off.
yeah,
See you guys in September.
yeah, everybody heads down to the beach. But no, we're still very much open for business in August. It just, certain stuff, if we don't have it on the shelf, and we have to go to a supplier
Mm-hmm.
that may or may not be on
Operating.
holiday. Yeah.
What's so what are you most excited? We just got a couple minutes left. What are you most excited about for Zamperla looking forward a little bit here?
Oh, what can I talk about? That's the question.
I know the park
You
business
know,
is so secretive.
no, it's we've. I'm really excited for some of our new coaster openings that we can't announce yet, and around the world, because it's product that is innovative in the way we configure it,
Oh, neat.
but we have typicality, right? Those systems are already in use. Those trains are already in use. So taking things that are typical from 2 different attractions, maybe, and bringing them together to create a new world-class experience. We've got a few of those in the hopper that are going to be debuting in the next year or two.
Wow.
And then, we've just, one of my personal favorite installation this year was Jet's Wonder Bikes at Morgan's Wonderland, where
Oh, neat place.
where we have 2 wheelchair accessible gondolas, and it's one of those things where when you have and to see it and have people share an experience that somewhere else in the world they may not be able to do.
Right.
Right. That is special because we're changing lives. We're creating memories that otherwise wouldn't exist. So our accessibility division, right? That we're, putting these wheelchair accessible amusement rides out. That I think that's one of the most special things. And as a company that delivers more rides annually than I think just about anybody else, we've kind of made it a mission to work on that and provide those shared experiences.
Well, that's really neat. That's a special place, and providing that accessibility to people who otherwise wouldn't have it is a really special thing. And I think that's a super positive note to end on. I really appreciate your time coming out and telling us about Zamperla and all the things that are going on with you guys. And
Thank you.
hope you keep us updated as we go along with these big coaster announcements.
Yeah, absolutely, Ron. And thank you for reaching out to me to have me on. I'm going to run back over to Canopy Lake for the NIAPA summer meeting and go take a look at our new nebulas that's just about ready to open to the public.
Excellent. We'll be looking for it and hopefully reporting on it. Thanks so much, Michael. Appreciate it.
Take care, Ron.
Bye-bye. This podcast is brought to you by Innovative Ticketing is the ticketing source made for the amusement industry. Our staff of professionals can guide you through your setup, assist with customer service, even on the weekends when you most need it, and help increase your sales through promotions that work. Innovative Ticketing is the ticketing source made for the amusement industry. Sign up today at innovativeticketing.com.